Hi guys, this is Miss Lim. Let's talk about the different forms of quadratic functions that you can have. As you saw in the last video, standard form is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And these values a, b, and c are all constants. Right? These coefficients will determine the shape and position of your parabola. And the one restriction on this is that a cannot be equal to 0. Because if a were equal to 0, then you wouldn't have that x squared term in there. So, y equals ax squared plus bx plus c is your standard form. Factored form is y equals a, which is the same a as above, times x minus r1 times x minus r2. And the factored form doesn't always exist, right? It depends on what your function is and what your standard form is. It doesn't always exist. And you remember from the last video that the parabolas have solutions, or they have roots. That's what these r's are right here. R1 and R2 are your roots. And they would have constants here only if the parabola intersects the x-axis twice. And again, this a is the same a as the standard form. So if a is positive, the parabola will open up. If a is negative, it'll open down. Finally, you have vertex form. Y equals a, same a as above, times x minus h squared plus k. And you can get your vertex form by completing the square. A is the same a as above. H and k are what are really interesting for us. Because if you can put your quadratic function into vertex form, then you can find out where the vertex is. So the vertex, which is that maximum or minimum point of your function, is at hk. And you guys should know this from your transformation rules. When you alter the x variable, if you subtract 2 from x, that'll shift it 2 to the right. And then your k variable will shift your parabola up or down. So, if you have vertex form, you can find the point, that minimum or maximum point at hk. And then you also have something called an axis of symmetry. Axis of symmetry at x equals h. Let me just draw a quick diagram over here to demonstrate what that means. If you have your parabola, which looks like this point right here is your vertex, and then your axis of symmetry is that vertical line that goes through the vertex, and that's always in the middle of your roots. So say your roots were at -1 and 3, then you know that your axis of symmetry would be x equals 1, right? Because that's in the middle of the two roots. And that goes through the vertex. So, there are your three forms. First is standard form. Second is factored form. Third is vertex form. If you're lucky, then you can find all three versions of these quadratic functions forms just given one equation. And when you put them into these three forms, it'll be easier to see the shape of the parabola, it'll be easier to find the roots, and it'll be easier to graph because you know how the graph is transformed and you know where the vertex lies. Alright, I hope that helps. In the next video, we'll talk about how to actually solve these quadratic equations and go from one form to the next.